The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Building Connected Windows Store Apps. And our guest speaker today is Sandeep Allure. He is the lead evangelist DPE at Microsoft India. Sandeep has over 15 years of industry experience working with a range of clientele in India and across the globe. He has been an ardent fan of Microsoft and its suite of products, solutions, enablers, and the value they bring to enterprises and consumer worldwide. At Microsoft, he leads the Evangelism Charter for India and works with the developer ecosystem in providing them a foundation to build apps on Windows platform. He believes that apps are central to engaging consumers in making them productive in the real world, and quality will be the biggest differentiator. Sandeep has rich experience of providing technology and architectural guidance to enterprise customers. His experience ranges from the dot-com days to the next generation distributed and cloud computing technologies on Microsoft platform. He has architected solutions across the Microsoft technology suite and is a stern believer of his own philosophy, which says enterprise architecture is an evolution and grows with innovation. Sandeep has authored quite a few articles in the area of SOA, ESB, Enterprise Framework, Distributed Computing Technologies, Web 2.0, Next Generation Web, and Cloud Computing, to name a few. So, without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you so much, Aruna. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Welcome, everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for taking time out on a weekday and attending this particular webcast. I'm absolutely delighted to take into you on this very topic, which is the hot topic, I would say, which is the apps and how you can probably be successful on a platform and by way of you idea to idea in the form of an app. So if you look at the topic, building connected apps, Windows Store apps, little context to know what this really means. As for the introduction, you heard one of my philosophy, which is the app is central to all of us as consumers, right? As consumers, it doesn't matter whether you're a 6-year-old or a 90-year-old, but app is central to anybody's behavior in the digital world today, right? In that context, we have a platform as Microsoft, which is Windows 8, Windows 8.1, which is the latest release, Windows Phone. Now, this is a platform which will absolutely help you take your dreams forward, take your ideas forward, I think all of us can relate to this statement which says the content is the king, right? Now, content is the king only if it is visualized when it's presented in a fashion which is acceptable, presented or consumed by the real consumers. Now, I'm sure all of you have ideas. This is the third in the series in terms of helping you understand how to take your app idea and realize that on a platform. Now, today we'll go through a few tenets in terms of if you're considering building Windows Store apps. When I say Windows Store apps, we're talking about apps which you building targeting tablets, right? We call Windows Phone apps the apps built for the Windows Phone. But when I say Windows Store apps, we also say Windows Store modern apps in the context of Windows 8, 8.1. Now, those are something which you're building targeting tablets and desktops all in ones. Anything that ranges from 8-inch to a 72-inch or 82-inch PPI board, right? That's the range of the scalability that Windows 8 offers. It embraces the new form factor seamlessly, and what you build today, Windows 8 absolutely shines across multiple form factors with absolutely no programming effort required to make sure it works across the board. Now let's get started. So let me just give you a quick rundown on the agenda. So if you look at it, I think my colleagues in the previous sessions, again, I'm sure they would have given you a good overview and demonstration of what is Windows 8 as a platform, right? So what are the building blocks? What are the technicalities in terms of how you go about building an app, right? Now we'll talk about some of the features which are critical, central to any app that you build on this platform, right? The apps, when I say the central to one's behavior, that is said so because if you look at the way anybody uses any form factor, any device for that matter, right? They embrace the operating system. They start leveraging the features. They start exploring the features. They start using the features on a daily basis. When they start using an app in the context of that operating system, it is also critical that the app leverages the feature that is meant for the operating system and does not really hinder the user experience at the end of the day. For example, you know, on any particular device of your choice, you have your own way to search content, right? From a Windows 8 standpoint, you know, we have a very specific patterns and recommendations on how you should search content on this particular operating system. Now, if a user using a tablet or a laptop or an all-in-one machine, now he or she has definitely has learned the art of searching on this particular device. Now, if you build an app, it's important that you embrace or complement that philosophy of how search happens in the operating system. You have to embrace the design philosophy. That's the number one, you know, thumb rule. Any form factor, right? So any platform to say it. You know, though I'm from Microsoft, I can openly say that this is true with any platform. The success of an app you build today is equivalent to how well or is complemented by how well you embrace the design philosophy in the platform, right? Success has many meanings at the end of the day. It might be money you make, it might be the number of downloads you get at the end of the day. All the stuff is probably aftermath. But number one differentiator, number one success factor on any platform is the way you embrace the philosophy in the context of design. That really stands out. That's really probably make sure the stickiness that's one aspires on the app stays longer. I think, you know, this is something which is true, and all of you know, I guess. The apps, you know, if you look at the Gartner and the Forrester studies on what is an app, and they define it beautifully, right? They say app, you know, there are two terms that we use, you know, in industry, right? One is application, that is something which we always used in the past. Now we use the term app, which is typically, you know, looks like an abbreviated term, but it's not. In reality, if you go with the definition as Gartner has put on really well, app is basically a minimalist representation of your software, right? Let me say that again. App is a minimalistic representation of your software. Now, software, typically termed as application, is basically the Uber thing, which is basically the umbrella of thing that happens from a consumer standpoint. But app is something which takes one feature, one aspect of a solution or an application, and make sure it runs really well, it works really well. So basically, it's a miniature version of what one can aspire to do in a specific form factor. The reason it is so, because if you build an app and you have one feature in that, the same app has to run across multiple form factors and operating systems and platforms. Right now, you might be carrying, let's say, a smartphone which probably has 512 MB RAM. You might be carrying, let's say, a laptop which is run on Intel architecture. Now, the app should run seamlessly and well across both these range of devices, right? And in that context, yes, when you're trying to build an app, make sure you embrace some of the basic tenets on the design front. And that's what defines the success at the end of the day. From an agenda standpoint, today we will go over 3 or 4 really cool features, really compelling features from a consumer standpoint. I'm not saying this features are compelling purely from OS standpoint. These are built keeping in mind consumers. So these are really compelling features from a consumer standpoint. Number one, contracts overview. In that particular, the contracts are something which I'll explain what that means. In the context of Windows 8, we'll go through contracts and we'll talk about how do you share information, how do you apply settings to an application, how do you search information, right? Those comes under contracts. And moving on, we'll talk about tiles and notifications, right? If you look at any Windows device, Windows 8 or Windows Phone, you have these square tiles. We call it tiles. You have these square rectangles that's there. Rectangles and squares on Windows 8 desktop and tablets. Now, they're called tiles. Now, usually they're full of light. We call them live tiles, and that's number one. Number two, we'll also talk about notification. Notification is something which is central to any operating system, right? So because that's one way to asynchronously keep in touch with the consumers, right? That's the only way you can notify consumer that what is happening in the background. So notifications are pretty cool that way. So we'll talk about that. Now, I'll also before I move on, I also want to let you all know that I'm going to probably talk for about 40-45 minutes, and I'll definitely dedicate about 10-15 minutes of time in the later part of the session, towards the end of the session, for the question answer. So please bear with me if you have any questions. Hold on to them, and when we get to the Q&A, we'll definitely I'll definitely make sure I go through each one of them. Okay. let's move on. Okay, now as you see in the slide was titled "Be Part of the Bigger Picture." Yes, your app is in the center right now. So now, what are contracts? Contracts are basically some of the agreements that app would have. It's like striking a deal with the operating system. Okay, it's like striking a contract with the operating system. What it means is, I said initially that every consumer, he or she, so they definitely have a way to engage with the operating system. If it's a question of searching information, yes, there is something called search charm. When you swipe on the right edge of any of the touch-based hardware on the Windows 8, or if you use your mouse and take it to the top right or top bottom of the right of the screen, a small rectangle slides into the screen. That's called the charms, right? Now the charm has 3 or 4 things that typically any user does on the particular any operating system for that matter, right? Which is search and share. Search and share is something which is mostly done by consumers, be it any device for that matter. Search and share is the most dominant feature that's used by consumer. Even if you use a phone for that matter, right? You search information and you typically share the information. Now, Facebook is living evidence of that, or Twitter for that matter. Now, how do you do that? Users have a specific way to achieve that on the operating system. Now, when you build an app, you have to actually make sure you offer the same capabilities via the same OS features. Now, that's where the contracts come into picture, right? Be it search information, or be it sharing information from your app to a different app, or sharing information or being recipient of a share from a different app to your app, right? Now, that's where you have to strike a contractual agreement with the operating system. Now, file picker, right? That's also a contract for that matter. From an app standpoint, assuming you want to upload a picture onto your app, let's say this is about digital wall, digital frame kind of an app. Now, as you know, you have to upload an app to this particular picture to this particular app. Now, file picker is also a contract on Windows 8. Now, unless you enable that contract, your app will not be able to show the file picker. In terms of what does the file picker do? File picker typically helps you explore the operating system, explore the file system to help you choose a specific file or a picture to upload. Now, that also won't happen unless you have struck a contract with that particular operating system. Calendar. So all these are typically surrounding aspects of your app, any app you build. Okay. Now, that's where the contracts come into picture, and we'll go over 2 of them, which is very critical, which is search and share. Yeah. Now, I mentioned this. So contracts come in 2 pieces. One is you can do it via APIs, right? So APIs is mostly it's programmatic. While you're programming, you enable the feature, right? To implement a contract, you can absolutely use an API and try to activate them via program. When they run, they get activated. Or there's something called a manifest. Manifest is basically the reference for this particular app to really run, right? And manifest also is wizard-driven. Now, using manifest, you can enable a specific contract saying for this app, at the minimum, these contracts should be enabled. Now, this is IDE-driven, which is interior development environment-driven. This is wizard-driven, so no need to really worry about which API call and how does it work. Not at all. It's very simple. Open the manifest and boom, you can just check and uncheck capabilities. When I say capability, that's where also what comes to mind is assuming your app. If you let's take Zomato as an app for that matter. Zomato is again an app which helps you information on dining and recipes, right? So now, if you want to find out when you're assuming you're traveling on a highway and you want to find out what are the closest restaurants near the highway, Zomato for the app to really give you the information, it asks you for your geolocation. Now, unless this app has enabled geolocation, your app won't be able to leverage or look up the geolocation that long on the mission. So that's a capability. While programming, you enable it via manifest, and when you run for the first time, or when you run every time, basically, let me take that back. So I think when you run your app for the first time, it asks you whether, hey, you know what, this app is trying to use your geolocation coordinates. So do you allow or disallow? That's a question asked to the consumer. Every capability that you implement in an app eventually gets decided or used by the consumer. Now, consumer says allow. That's when your app gets privileged as app gets access to geolocation coordinates, right? So you can definitely do it by two ways, APIs or declarative. Let's move on. Let's talk about the first one, which is share contract. As I said earlier, share is something which is it's at the center of any interaction, any center of any activity that one does, one actions on a specific digital device. Now the share happens, and share has two aspects to it, right? I'm moving on to the next slide. So now from an app standpoint, assuming you're building an app, right? Let's take Facebook for that matter, right? If Facebook is an app that is installed on a particular device, now Facebook is an app wherein we share information, wherein we post pictures, post videos, post links, right? Now, if I'm building an app if I'm installing that app, right? Now, that app typically can be a share source. That means I'm going to push some information from my app onto a different app, which is called share target. Now, Facebook is a share target because Facebook is a recipient of share content, recipient information. Now, share source is my individual app or any app for that matter, except which are not recipients of share content. Now, Facebook becomes share target. Your app can also be a share target provided you're able to accept information from any other app, right? So the two kinds of share source, share target. Now, if you look at the same example. So now, if you look at Times of India as an app, now Times of India should be able to take information, give information both from an app standpoint, from an interaction standpoint. If a consumer wants to share an article which says, hey, 2014 elections, blah blah. So if that's the news that has to go across to, let's say, Facebook, so Times of India as an app should become share source, and that information eventually goes back to a target app, which is called the share target, which implements share target as a contract. Now, assuming Times of India should also be able to receive information, let's say I have, a drawing app, or let's say I have a breaking news app, and assuming Times of India is capable of taking breaking news as a target from consumers. Now, from this breaking news app, I'll say share with Times of India, and Times of India is an app that comes up on the share target list. Now, if Times of India has implemented share target, it will be able to take the content and it should be able to take it forward. That's how it works. Now let's see how it works here. Visually, it will be more meaningful to explain this. We'll see the code for sure in terms of how it happens. Instead of going through an IDE, I've taken the code and I've put that across in the deck itself. That will be easy for us to come and explain as well. And there's less disturbance when I switch from to Windows. Share source, yes, you have to register with the data transfer manager. Now, look, imagine this is how it works in reality. Now, there are two people. I mean, this is how I love to indicate. Now, assuming there is a empty pond, right? Now, and there are two people standing on either side of the pond. It's not a pond. It's probably an empty bucket. Let's use it as a bucket, empty bucket. Now, from one individual will take content from one and post it into the box, into this bucket. The other individual takes it forward, right? That's typically how it works from a data transfer manager standpoint. A source app will register with the data transfer manager saying, hey, you know what? Hey, I have a content, and I would like to give it or receive it as we go along. So that's something which is registration. That's from a source app standpoint. And there's a share broker, right? Usually user selects share. When the user selects share, how do they select share? I said earlier, when you swipe on the right edge of the machine, or if you take the mouse to the right hand side, a rectangle, a small strip appears onto the visible area. That's called the charms bar. The charms bar has the share button, right? The moment I say share button, and share button, the share event is activated and sent to the share source app, which typically is the data transfer manager. Now, this is where the handshake happens between the share source and the share broker, which is the share activation event. Now, when the share source app wants to share information, right? So all the target apps, all the recipient apps, right, which are capable of receiving any content. See, when I say share information, the OS does not know whether you want to share with Facebook, Twitter, Times of India, NDTV, LinkedIn, etc. Does not know anything about that, right? So you have to choose as an end user, because you're initiating share from your own app. Now, if I'm a consumer, I'm initiating share from Times of India. Now, OS does not know whether you want to share an article from Times of India to which of the target. So it'll list down a list of filtered target apps with quick links in terms of how to share content. Now, after that, what happens? User selects target app, or let's say I select Facebook as a target app for me to share information. Now, the target app gets activated, okay, because that's a shared target, right? Because consumer is saying from Times of India app he wants to share, and he's invoked the share charm. He's the share button. It says share, and he's chosen Facebook as an app to share content to. So that activation happens to the target app. Now, if you look at the third one, share target. One second, hold on, please. Yeah. So share target is where typically share target gets activated from a sharing standpoint. Now, there is a request that goes back and forth between the share target and share broker, and eventually the source app's content gets dispatched to the share target via the share broker, and there is a report completion event that comes up. Yeah. So this is very straightforward in terms of the way it works. There's no complication whatsoever. There are three parties here: source, broker, and target. And broker is the one who mediates the data transfer between the source and the target. Period. Nothing else. Yeah. From a source code standpoint, if you look at here, there are events which gets fired when each of the activity from share, from source, broker, and target happens. It's pretty straightforward, and there's an on navigator to event which gets fired. And for the current view, it says there is an event which gets wired up here called on share data requested. When data share requested happens, the event gets fired, and data, whatever data you're supposed to share from source target, you just push that in the data transfer. Now this is about share source implementation, right? Yeah, what you see right now, I'll wait for it to just load up. What you're seeing right now is a flyout which comes from the top, from the right hand side in the swipe. And since I'm saying share, let's say from Times of India, it is listing down all the apps which can be share recipients. Yeah. Now, what the user does is chooses a specific target app and shares that. Okay. Let me also show you how the manifest looks from a share source and target standpoint. So now data packets can be exchanged in these 7 different types. It can be plain text, it can be formatted text, it can be URI which you want to share, it can be HTML, and CSS, it can be images, files, and it can be your custom data formats as long as the shares target agree, understand the particular format. Yeah. Now this is about the next part, which is share target activation. The moment user taps on, let's say, Facebook, what happens? Right? The event goes to the share target application, share target app, and they try to understand in what format the data is coming. I mean, there's an agreement that has to be there between the target and the source in terms of the message protocol. So that's something which gets activated, and that's where async functionality begins. So handshake is something which all of us are used to in terms of how when the message happens. Now, report start and report complete for activities which go on for some time can be used to make sure that the progress team does not really go on forever. Yeah. You can also choose to return a quick link, right? If you want to return a quick link to, or you want to email a quick link to anybody else, you can use the quick click option. Anything that you share goes out as a link, and you can do that by email. Yeah. Now let's come to settings. What are settings? We spoke about share. We spoke about I think I said we're going to talk about 3 contracts. One is share, second is settings, third is search. So now let's talk about settings. When you swipe the right hand side of your of the screen on Windows 8, what you see on the right hand side is what you get. Yeah. So this is appeared because as a consumer app, swipe on the right edge of the machine. Okay, right edge of the screen. Now these are called, and there is a settings and there is a settings option that appeared on Charms bar because of which this flyout comes in, right? Now the settings that you see here are typically the control panel, the personalization, the PC info, and the help. These are the settings for OS. These charms which appear from the right hand side, they are context sensitive. That means if you're outside of the app on the OS, basically, generally on the start screen, you get settings which are OS centric. Now, assuming you are in an app and you invoke the settings charm, now what you get, there is context sensitivity. You get settings which are specific to your app, which are context sensitive, which are private to your app. Okay, let's see how do you make that happen. We just for the wait slide to move out. Yeah. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Now, what you're seeing on the right-hand side is a app-specific flyout that's coming. Okay. When the user is in the app and the user says show settings, right? That's when the flyout comes in from the right, and you see these custom settings which are specific to the app. You can put any settings. It can be global settings for the app. It can be specific to what user wants to enable, disable. It can, for example, if you're using, let's say, geolocation in the app, now at some point of time, if you want to disable geolocation to be used by this app, you can go ahead here and disable. I'm just giving an example in terms of what settings are, right? Now, honestly, the programming aspects of these is the most simpler part. The most difficult or the most important aspect of this particular journey is to understand how these gets used, what is the usage pattern, how does the design tendency should be applied. Those are the stuff which probably needs much more attention than understanding programming. Programming is probably a lot simpler, right? Programming can be done by anybody in any day. I believe in that, honestly, because as Microsoft, if you're looking at SDK that we've released, this is no different than the earlier legacy that we carry in terms of .NET framework, right, that continues. And again, it's a language neutral platform, so you can program in a language of your choice, which is C++, C#, VB.NET, C++, C#, VB, or JavaScript HTML. And by the way, JavaScript HTML for the first time, it's native on Windows. I don't think there's any other platform where JavaScript HTML is native, right? That way, programming honestly is the most simple part. Making sure you understand way to leverage the feature, where you apply it, is what matters. So moving on, yeah. So this is again, in terms of how to wire up, the command and settings flyout. So let me just move out of this. Okay. Let's talk about the search. The third contract, which is a search contract. Now, search happens via two means. There's a search charm also, search charms bar, which I'll show you in a little while from now. That appears when it's from the right hand side along with text. Now search can be done two ways. One is a global search, and the second one is a context sensitive search box within the app. In 8.0, if you look at it, as per the design design philosophy, you're supposed to leverage the global search via charms bar. Now, in 8.1, we felt, hey, you know what? Search something which probably users would like to use in the context of application instead of getting the search charms bar from the right hand side. Why don't we embed that in app? So now we have a new search box. Okay. As see here, the search foreground app via search charm contract bar. That's what comes up. The general challenge that typically user face earlier was how do you make sure people continue to be engaged with an app and continue search at ease at a manner which is very flexible. That's something which is what 8.1 addresses really good way. Now, by default, search is powered by Bing. If you search anywhere, in the context of an app or outside the context of an app, doesn't matter. But by default, anything you search is powered by Bing. The results comes from Bing. Now, it typically, it gives a wonderful display. It's almost like an app-like experience, app-like display on output. If you look at the first one, it displays all the files within your operating system, which probably matches the particular content, that particular search keyword. The next would be the hero search results. Now, this is where the first one is mostly index files in the local machine. The second one is where Bing gets it from various relevant large sources, and the third one is the web, right? So this is probably the Wikipedia link, and all the stuff gets displayed here. Okay. Now, from a configuration standpoint, the user controls everything. For example, the way search happens. What are the apps that should probably leverage search, and how personalized your search can be. These are global settings. You can go to control panel, you can see these settings. Like it's called the PC settings. You can see that. So all these. So the way I think it's kept out of an app, and you can probably localize search by app, is simply in that anything that you change in the PC settings from a control panel standpoint, it usually affects every app. For example, which want to leverage personalized results from Bing, or they don't want to get personalized results. It gets usually mixed up in terms of who would like to use what. Hence, you kept out what we apply is applied to the global settings. Now, to complement the search that should happen within a specific app, we have the new in-app search box, right? Now, the way it works is by default, if you look at it, the search champs bar one, by default by Bing. Now, this is a box which is usually positioned at the top right as a search box with a search icon there, right? While it loads, something like this, right? This is the search box markup which you see on the left-hand side, and that's how the search box appears on the right-hand side. Right. Now, you can definitely give predictive, as you start typing, and once you start typing, you can give, search query results, search suggestions we call it, and you can do that, and that's also an HTTP request you have to make to get it, and you can display it dynamically, when user is typing. Now, moment the results are retrieved, how you display it also is a matter of something which you can decide, and that's something which the OS does not control or mandate. You can take control on the content and display it. Now, while search panel is also available 8.1, by default, as I said, the current app, the context is not current app. The context is everywhere. It searches everywhere. Local machine, internet. The local machine, the local machine is file system, and the results from the web is powered by Bing. So it goes everywhere and makes sure it displays the result, which probably is a one-stop shop for you to discover what you want to discover from an app standpoint. So from a general recommendation standpoint, if you look at it, it's very clear. Don't rely on search pane to initiate search earlier. So earlier in 8.0, as a user, as a consumer expected to search, let's say, news from Times of India from wherever the user is. He or she need not be in the app to make a search. Reco from 8.1 is to make sure you rely on search box within your app to make it a localized search. Okay. Let's come to another interesting. By the way, so we're done with the contracts now. Now we move on to the next two super cool features called live tiles and notifications. Right. Live tiles are, as the name suggests, if you look at some of the samples here in terms of the way it's been displayed, you have a weather app, which there are three kinds of tiles here. One is a small tile, one is the square tile, and the white tile. Now, and you also have the fourth size, which is the big tile, right? So now which has a rectangular stuff like that. Now you have something called tile type enumeration. You can choose the style in terms of what kind of information you would like to display in this particular tile. Now, across all the four, the smallest one, definitely you don't have much real estate there to really display much information. So you typically display logo. You can also give some icon-based indicators to let people know, hey, what's happening with a particular app. But otherwise, you restrict yourself to showing an app logo. The next one, with the square one, you have a little more real estate to talk about. Hey, what's the weather there right now, right? Whatever the configuration, whatever the city that the user has chosen, you can definitely display the weather. Beyond that, you can also get visual in the third size tile, wherein you can display the city, you can display a visual representation of how the weather is right now and all the stuff. The fourth one is the best. Now, according to me, that brings in so much of creativity and innovation in terms on the real estate standpoint. You can do wonders, you can do magic in terms of how you would like to display content. Now, these are something which are done even without the user initiating content to be retrieved and displayed here. That's the beauty of live tiles, right? That's one way to keep the consumer's attention active and on, because the app has a very short, short life. It's fast to short life. That's what we say, right? It's fast download and a short life, right? You want to make sure it downloads instantly, but you may like it, you may not like it, so you stop using it. But because of live tile, because of some information that probably will look attractive to the consumer end of the day, he or she will continue to use your app. Example for this is let's say Times of India. In every 15 minutes or half an hour, if there's a breaking news, they push that to the live tile. Or let's say Flipkart, if it's a Flipkart app, if they have some big deals happening for the day, they can push live tile, information by live tile for consumers really to attract consumer attention, right? Now, as you see here, it's not plain vanilla. You absolutely can get rich content to be displayed on these tiles. Let's come to notification, which is one of the most desirable and one of the most required feature from app user standpoint, because everything is something, every information is something consumer won't be able to keep track of or keep track of or consume from a content standpoint. Now, notifications will absolutely bridge the gap in terms of making sure the right content is delivered to the right person, right information is delivered at the right time. All this stuff is something which is taking care of notifications. Notifications are of four variety. One is local, right? When you notification sent while your app is running, that's local notification. There's no connectivity with any of this backend, nothing of that sort. Scheduled, right? No, it occurs specific time, and by default, the minimum is half an hour. So you can definitely schedule a notification, notification for an app, and it occurs specific time. Third is periodic. The app might actually poll on a regular basis to the cloud, and depending on new content, you might deliver a notification. Or push. Push typically is sent from the server side, via notification services. We'll talk about that in terms of how Windows push notification services function. That's something which will absolutely make a difference to the way people build apps, the way notifications are displayed, to any app. Yeah. So while push notification is the infrastructure which is available for you to really push any of the information, these are the various varied usage of that. Then we spoke about tile and we spoke about notifications, right? So if you have to push information onto the tile, push notification services absolutely is the right one. That's what will help you do that. And you can also get toast notifications, which typically appears as a small blob on the top right, and on the top, it comes on the top right, and then that typically comes and your option to see it, or you can an option to dismiss it. So it works. And then any of the delivery of content, be it live tile or toast notification, none of that requires that your app to be running. That's the best part, right? So your app is not used by the consumer, but you get a notification because of which you get attracted and you probably will use that. That's the intent, right? Honestly, so today there's IPL auction happening, right? So now I was unaware of it because probably too busy traveling, but I love cricket, right? Now while I was preparing for this particular webinar an hour back, that's when I got a notification about, let's say, Yuvraj Singh being sold with a maximum number of, I think probably 12 crores. I don't know what the number is. So I think they spent so much. Now that's the breaking news. Now that came as toast notification to me on my mission. So when I tapped on that notification, it showed me the article in ESPN Cricinfo. It's a notification from ESPN Cricinfo app, and because there was toast notification, because Times of India, the Cricinfo app is in front of my mission, and because they could push notification to me, I opened it after a long time. That's one way for them to address user attrition. That's one way for them to really keep track of the consumers and make sure they use that app, right? Now, the app was not really running at all, honestly. So it was quite some time since I'd used an app. Now, it's a free service for your app to use. It absolutely scales across the board. It's a question of you need to have an information infrastructure which will leverage the push notification and WNS infrastructure. So this is how the push notification sequence works. Number one, your Windows Store app. You will have to build a cloud service, which is basically your data provider, right? The data provider is something which you will have to build and host. Now, that in turn will have a handshake with Windows Notification Service. Windows Notification Service typically will license with the notification client platform, and that's how the puzzle completes. What happens is when Windows Store app runs for the first time, all these registrations happen, all these handshake happens, because when WNS has to push information to specific devices, it needs to know the identity of the device. Now, that typically happens between the WNS and the notification client platform. They exchange information to make sure how they identify each of these particular missions, because WNS will scale across millions of devices, right? Millions of users. Now, users across the board. Now, how do you make sure? How do you know which information has to be sent to which consumer? That's the role of WNS. That's the most powerful, that's the most scalable solution that's there from a notification standpoint. Yeah. Good. Now I just want to make sure that you get this right, because push notification is something which is very critical for any app. Now, when an app runs, it does a handshake with it does a handshake with notification client platform, which in turn makes a message call to the WNS, and WNS knows which cloud service it is supposed to be using to give out information, and that's how the handshake happens. Now, there's something called channel URI. That's something which gets exchanged. That means Windows admission where the app is running, it sends out a channel URI, which is an identity of that particular app, onto WNS, which maintains and then pushes the information. Okay. I think with that, I think this is the last part of the 5 features we spoke about. Number 1 was share. Number 2 was search. Number 3 was settings. Number 4 was lifetime. Number 5 is push notification services. So we covered 5 features now. These are something which you have to keep in mind when you enable or build any app, right? 3 things are which is probably non-visual. All these non-visual, right? None of these really give any visual differentiators, except lifetime. Lifetime is very much visible. Lifetime is something which is very evident in terms of how information is presented, but otherwise the rest of the stuff is tucked into its own zones. So let's move on now. I think in terms of technicalities, the technical stuff I wanted to talk about. This is the last slide. This is something which I wanted to probably talk about. Let me probably before I get into Q&A, let me also take 2 minutes to talk about one of the really good program that we have for app developers in India. Now you have to visit this URL called appbuildersclub.com. If you're not registered, you can register. This is a group of elite app developers in India. All the interested app developers are registered in this particular URL. So you can go and register yourself there. What happens after that is, assuming you've started building an app, you absolutely can participate in some of the campaigns that we have as part of for developers in India. Now, these campaigns, as part of you building an app, you can submit your app for this challenge, and this context lets you absolutely go home with wonderful all-in-one PCs and certification watches and shopping watches, right? And for that to happen, you need to build high-quality apps. We have said this time and again across various forums. As Microsoft, we believe in quality over quantity. We don't want any of you to build an app just for the sake of building. If you genuinely feel you have an idea which makes consumer sense, consumer value to the store, now you should build those apps. We're not in race with anybody on their quantity. Right? So in that case, sorry, I had a small disturbance here. Apologies for that. So that's the sincere ask from our end. Make sure you build high quality apps, and then make sure you don't really push an app to the store for the sake of pushing an app. And if you have, let's say, high quality app, we have app grading that happens at Microsoft. Every other goes in the store, we do grading. we grade apps under platinum, gold, silver, elementary categories. If your app is any of these four, for example, I mean, it will be any of these four, but we would love for you to build an app which is a platinum and gold quality. And if you build any of the gold quality in apps, you'll definitely stand a chance to win this wonderful all-in-one PCs. And these are some of the resources that's there for you. These are too many to remember, but one important resource I would love for you to remember is MicrosoftVirtualAcademy.com. Right? Easy to remember. Microsoft Virtual Academy. Name the course, you have it there. If you want to understand how to build a Windows Store app, how does live tiles work, how does live notification works, how does push notification work, you have to, you can go to Academy, virtualacademy.com. If you don't know, for example, basics like C# programming or VB programming or JavaScript programming, you can definitely get hooked on some of the sessions here. Yeah. And the last one, which is the most critical part of the Microsoft our journey in India to make sure we help developers build quality apps is Windows Store App Labs. This is a physical setup in Bangalore, wherein people can walk in anytime and take expert advice from techies sitting in the app lab, or reach out to testers who can test your app across multiple form factors, or get design support or review support. Now, it's also available in the virtual mode. Now you can send an email if you have any questions and clarifications on any of the tech stuff on Windows and app development. You can write to w8pitcrew@microsoft.com. This is the URL that you have to remember. This is the email ID you have to remember. w8pitcrew@microsoft.com. Yeah, you send out an email, and more than anything else, just visit Windows. Just visit appbuildersclub.com. You get all information about how do you reach out to App Labs, what kind of support App Lab gives. Everything is documented there, well presented there. So this out of this entire slide, I would love for you to remember two URLs, which is microsoftvirtualacademy.com, and second one is appbuildersclub.com. Okay. So with
Thank you, Sandeep, for the insightful presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, I see that somehow you got logged off. So are you able to access the questions panel?
One sec, hold on. I should be able to. Let me just check. Yes, I see the question. I'll go one by one. Yep, I see them. Wonderful. So Deepak Sharma asked a question: where will I find the settings labeled in the application of creating an app? Okay. Now, by default, when you create, let's say, template using Visual Studio, the settings layout is not part of it. You have to add the flyout. It has to be programmed, right? It's a control. On an alternate mode, in one of the resources you can look up to is aka.ms, which is the short URL, aka.ms/win8 template. Okay, if you remember, I'll probably go back to the previous slide. There is one URL which probably is worth remembering. Yeah, so under how can I use apps, the fifth one, which is aka.ms/win8 template. So remember that URL, and if you go there, there are wonderful, every template that we have there. These are templates done to mitigate the risk of people not doing good design. So those templates have wonderful samples, and this is an evidence of how you can build great apps. So settings fly out in there. Otherwise, another way to really discover how to do it is go to SDK samples, right? Go to code.microsoft.com or amazon.microsoft.com and look for settings, charms sample. It will definitely will get you that. Somebody asked a question: what is SDK? Software Development Kit. Pramod. Yes, I'm sure you knew that, or if you don't know, it's SDK. So every platform has SDKs, and there are SDK samples available, which will help you understand for each of the the APIs that's available in the particular operating system or platform. These SDKs will augment development of that. Can you elaborate more on the charm? Deepak Sharma asked the question. So now, this is a term. This is a name given to what appears as a small strip on the right-hand side. When you swipe on the right edge of your screen, yeah, when you swipe on the right edge of your screen, what comes out is a jumps bar. It's a 10 pixel width strip that comes off on the right hand side. Okay. Next question is Deepak Sharma. What is the difference between search pane or search box? Yes, the search pane is something which comes up when you invoke search from jumps bar. Search box is something which is a control you position when you're in your app. Okay, that's a big difference. What is the difference between push notification and toast notification? This is a question from Sharma. Now, push notification is a technique used to push information onto your live tile. Yeah. Now, push notification is also a technique used to push information onto the machine by way of toast notification or live tile. Now, what is toast notification? Toast notification is something which comes out as a small strip on the top right. It's a notification, so it comes in it's kind of envelope which comes up there, which is information. That's a toast notification. Push notification is a mechanism used to achieve toast notification or live notification. Okay. Wonderful. So now the other question from Gaurav Patel. I'm making a live news world app in which I want news live tiles. Please give me the code using C#. Okay. For my sincere advice for you is to go to msdn.microsoft.com and there, if you choose Windows Store apps, to search for live tile samples, you'll get it. There are for every feature that we've spoken today, there's an SDK sample available. So I urge you guys to visit msdn.microsoft.com and you'll get it there. Okay. So with that, I think we've come to the end of the session. So I think we still have 5 more minutes. I'll hang in there. If you have any further questions, please make sure you send it across.
Sandeep, we have more questions with us. There is a question for when is a descriptive session planned on the same topic? As you have gone offline somehow, I would be providing you the questions. So if you would like to answer to that. When is a descriptive session planned on the same topic?
What that means, what I'm assuming from that question is, they want much more detailed session on the same topic. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Is that what that question means?
Exactly. So they are actually asking when Microsoft would be doing a similar presentation like this. So let me just tell you, next Wednesday, I think we have planned another wonderful webinar with Microsoft. So do join us on next Wednesday. And the next question to you would be how to connect database in Windows Store apps. That question comes from Pramod Rathor.
So now, let me get the quotes here. Sorry, I get the question. Now, there are multiple ways to really enable or give live data by means of building data repositories. By default, out of the box, you don't have direct support for like the SQL Server or Oracle, but one thing which is there is SQLite, which is an open source database that's available on locally. You can also that's one from a local database standpoint. You can also use local file system. You can also use all the picture library, video library, document library to store information, or you can use the direct, the local storage to store information, which is isolation. Outside of all this, if you want to connect to a remote database, absolutely that's straightforward. There's no big deal. But otherwise, from local database standpoint, SQLite is the answer to that, as you know. Yeah. The next question, Aradhana?
I think we have come to an end with the questions. Let's wait for a few minutes. If any questions comes in, I would be happy to just let you know about it.
Wonderful.
In the meanwhile, if you would like to sum up the session, to give a little insights about what you think about building apps.
Sure. Yes, I think that's an apt thing to do. Thanks for that. So now, what we've done today is, literally, gone through a journey of understanding some 4 or 5 critical capabilities from a Windows 8 standpoint. Now, I'm not saying these every feature, every app will have every other feature, but these are some of the common or the most important that you should consider. Now, be it live tile, be it toast notification, be it share, search, and the settings contracts. These are all features which likewise there are about there are hundreds of features in similar capacity. But what I've made an effort today, I've made an effort really help you understand some of the 3 or 4 of them. Now, when you start using an operating system, you'll discover probably a lot more of these such features, which is what you have to decide as an app developer, as an app publisher. What is relevant for your consumer? You will definitely have a target audience. If you're building a recipe app, for that matter, as an example, now you know for sure that if somebody wants to cook, they definitely want to keep the tablet in front of let's say in the breakfast counter or near the cooking place, and you definitely want gesture-based interaction. Now, touch is something which definitely makes a lot of sense there, or it can be leveraging certain sensors, or it can be automated way to move the content every, let's say, 1 minute. Now, scenarios are many, features also many. It's a question of how do you mix and match what features make sense for your target audience is something we have to be very judicious about, right? The final message I have for you guys is, focus on quality. Features are something which every other platform has. Quality is what it makes or breaks, right? So app I can also relate to any of these commodities also. For example, it might be Samsung releasing a wonderful new hardware, but if it's not done to perfection, not done to certain quality, it's called dead on arrival. Now, most of the apps that people build in today's on this planet, honestly, they're called dead on arrival because nobody focuses on quality to a greater extent, other than big publishers. Everybody else is building an app for the sake of building and putting it in the store. Now, don't do that. Honestly, we as Microsoft, we're not in the race. We believe in quality or quantity, as I said that earlier. So focus on quality. That's the final message I want to leave you guys with. Anything that you do on a platform, I don't see this platform, any platform that you do, focus on quality to make sure you offer great value consumer experience end of the day, on that particular platform. With that, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm sure it was time well spent for you guys this last 1 hour. It is definitely it is my pleasure speaking to all of you today in terms of taking you through these features on Windows 8. We'll continue to do this in future as well. There's one coming up in the near future. We'll get to know very soon. But otherwise, thank you so much, and you guys have a good evening. So, other than anything else, I think I'm done.
All right. So we have few questions which, if you want, you can take them offline. I will share them through email. You can answer them after the webinar is over, whenever you have the time. And I would really thank our speaker today for conducting this informative webinar. It was indeed a great session. And I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Sandeep, for all your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Pleasure talking. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great evening ahead.